Hi everyone, it's Gloria with Cheap Yummy Shiny, and today I'm going to go over some drugstore foundations. Now, you all know that I tend to prefer the airbrush foundation. My one that I use is Temp 2, and to me it really is superior to just about everything that I've tried, both in coverage, finish, wear, how long it takes to oxidate. So to me, it is my favorite by far. But my compressor is out and I have to take it in for repair or replacement, whichever one it is. So I've been playing once again with some drugstore foundations. And in going ahead and trying out a few, I found some that worked and some that really didn't. Now, I do have a couple of challenges in that I have a little bit of rosacea, and that includes like a couple broken capillaries, as well as some texture issues from old acne from when I was a teen. And then occasionally on top of that, let's just throw even more into the mix. I'm allergic to my cat. And so if she rubs on my face, I will get, what do you call them? Hives. Minor, but I'll get them, and they're itchy and they're annoying, and it's hard not to scratch them. But anyway, so I have a lot of issues to deal with. On top of, I'm on air, I'm on camera, and we have very harsh lighting. So, and we're HD to boot. So let's just put everything on at once. And I get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, so I'm always exhausted. I always look tired, and it does age you. So I've got a lot of challenges. So I've tried a few. I'm going to start with no concealer. This is just so you can see exactly what just the foundations do. And I'm going to put two side by side. So I have four to show you. And I'm going to do one on one side and one on the other so you can see what it looks like. So first of all, I'm going to start out with NYX Stay Matte But Not Flat Liquid Foundation in Nude. So this one is fairly close. It's maybe even the tad light, but it's close to my skin tone. And next to that, I'm going to use, I'm going to be, let's see, which one am I going to use? Oh yeah, the Revlon Photo Ready Airbrush Effect. And this one is in Natural Beige. This one is actually fairly close to my skin tone, maybe a little darker. So one's a little lighter, one's a little darker, but they're fairly close. So I'll go ahead and start out with NYX Stay Matte But Not Flat. And again, this one's in Nude. It's also SMF02. So I'll put some on my hand here. Grab my mirror and my handy dandy beauty blender, damp beauty blender. All right, so the right side of my face will be the NYX. So while I'm putting on the NYX Stay Matte But Not Flat, it actually comes out nice. It has a nice finish to it at first. It's matte, but it's not completely cakey. But once you start to build up a little bit of coverage, it can get a bit cakey. So I have noticed that about the NYX after I tried it out a few times for work. And it doesn't hold up quite as well under studio lights. So for the left side of my face, I'm going to use Revlon Photo Ready Airbrush Effect in Natural Beige. This is their 005 color. So as I'm putting on the Revlon, the finish is gorgeous. It does conceal pores, larger pores, without a lot of effort. I'll give it that. It does not build coverage very well, though. It does leave a bit of the redness come through. It doesn't hide too much of the texture, which is difficult, and I realize that. But it does leave a very gorgeous finish as you put it on. I've allowed them to set, and I'm going to very lightly powder them with a little bit of this Your Minerals Sweden fine pore minimizing powder. All right, so here's the finish of the two. The right side, my right side, is the NYX Stay Matte but Not Flat. The left side is Revlon's Photo Ready Airbrush Effect. Now, the Revlon is a little bit darker than the NYX, but you can see that this is a bit of a matte finish. It is, and this one's supposed to be pore minimizing and also minimize any sort of flaws, skin flaws. I was a little disappointed with this. The finish is not bad. It actually, finishes nicely. And if you don't have a lot of challenges with your face, like let's say you don't have a lot of rosacea or you don't have any sort of like texture issues, this would be great. If you just have like a few large pores, I think this would fill it in nicely. This is also something, I find it very medium coverage. These are both kind of medium coverage. I didn't find them super buildable. I found them to get very cakey very quickly if I tried to build on them too much, if I try to build into a full coverage. So I wouldn't suggest doing that. It doesn't work well. What I have found, this one, the NYX, the wear is all right. It's not bad for most people. For most of you, it's not going to be horrible. I think I saw a good 7 or 8 hours before I started seeing it get very challenged by some oxidation and any natural facial oils. I was very disappointed with the Revlon Photo Ready Airbrush Effect wear. This one was severely challenged with the wear. I think by hour 7, 8, my face was, it looked horrible. It had oxidized, it had broken down, it was separating, not even powdering was helping, and it looked terrible. Like, I had to get the makeup off as soon as possible. In fact, before I left my job, the couple of times I used it, I just took tissue paper and I just dry wiped as much of it off as I could because it looked horrible. It looked like there's something wrong with my skin. Now, this might not be an issue for a lot of you because a lot of you, especially if you're wearing something and you're just going to go home, that's fine. But for me, it didn't wear well at all. And my skin isn't particularly oily any longer. It used to be. So a few years ago, I would have blamed it on that. Revlon Photo Ready Airbrush Effect. NYX Stay Matte but Not Flat. All right, so now it's time for the second pair of drugstore foundation. So the first one I'm going to try is, well, not try, I will show you, is the Hard Candy Glamouflage. It says it's Invisible Camouflage Foundation. This is supposed to be full coverage. It says it's transforming liquid powder foundation that absorbs oil, camouflage imperfections, and delivers a long-lasting velvet finish. And it says it's made with superfine pigments. And this one is in color 934 light medium. The second one that I'm going to try on the other side of my face is the Milani Conceal and Perfect 2-in-1 Foundation Concealer in 04 Medium Beige. And this one is supposed to be medium to full coverage, lightweight, oil-free, long-wearing, water-resistant, and sweat-proof, which I like. The sweating isn't a big deal, but I do get rained on a lot. And this one you're supposed to be able to use without a concealer if you need to. So again, this is the Milani. All right, so I'm going to start out with the Hard Candy Glamouflage. I'm going to find a non-foundation covered bit of my sponge, and I'm going to use this on the right side of my face. This is supposed to be a medium to full coverage foundation with the ability to camouflage any sort of imperfections that you might have. It does say that it helps keep natural moisture in the skin and keeps flawless perfection. It does work fairly well, and it does cover color very well and texture. However, you'll notice that when I start to build a little bit of coverage, it does get a little bit cakey right around where I need the extra help. The Milani Conceal and Perfect 2-in-1 Foundation and Concealer is nice in that if I don't want to wear concealer, I don't have to. This actually does work very well without concealer. It does cover a lot of color. Now, I gave it a little bit of an unfair test because the left side of my face, my cheek there, does have the worst texture issue of either side of my face. So it does have some deeper scarring right there. However, when I do build coverage, it takes very little to build up the coverage. And honestly, it doesn't look cakey, or very cakey, I should say, even with extra coverage. If I put extra foundation there, it doesn't get too cakey. I'd also like to point out that I put less of the Milani on my hand than I did the other foundations. And while with the Revlon, I wished I'd put a little bit more. The NYX, I wished I'd put a little bit more. I put less of the Milani and didn't even use all of it. So a little, goes a long way with the Milani. All right, so this is the finished product with the last two, the second pair. So this one on the right side is the Hard Candy Glamouflage. This one's in light medium 934. This side is the Milani Conceal and Perfect 2-in-1 Foundation and Concealer in 04 Medium Beige. So this is what I have to say about these. These are of the four, the two favorite. This one has a very nice, you'll notice, a good matte finish. It has, and considering I wasn't trying to cover or conceal pores, you'll notice it did a fairly decent job on concealing pores. It was definitely buildable. So I don't. If you watched me doing this and you paid attention, you noticed that on all four, I tried to build extra coverage here. So since I wasn't using any concealer, I was trying to build coverage right here, which is my problem spot, to see if I can camouflage the texture as well as the little bit of rosacea that I have there. And it did pretty well. This is no concealer. And you can see very little of the red beneath it. Now, if you look on this side, this one is the Milani Conceal Foundation, the 2-in-1. This one, oops, again, did all right with covering the pores. And again, I wasn't really trying. And it did fairly well on the build-up, on building up to conceal. This side is actually probably worse than this side, I'll give that. But it did pretty well to conceal this problem spot of mine. Now these two, considering that they're completely different colors as far as one's supposed to be a medium beige and the other one is a light medium, they were pretty close on color. Pretty close on tone as well, as far as doing like a gold slash, I'm sort of between a gold and a neutral. So this one looks a lot more perfected, but this side also has a lot less problem with the texture. This side definitely has more texture issues, so you're going to see more of it come through. One day I will get it sandblasted off, but I have not. But it did pretty well. What I will say is this one seems to have a nicer finish to it. This one is definitely a bit more covering, and they're both fairly long wearing. I will say that the Milani Conceal and Perfect on me lasted longer than the Hard Candy. This is what I think. For every day, like let's say I were going to go out for a few hours, I love the finish on this. The finish on the Revlon Photo Ready Airbrush Effect is beautiful. I would maybe get a lighter color than this, although summer's coming. So I think I'm going to keep this, but this is not going to be for work. This is not a full coverage foundation. This has a beautiful finish on it. It looks natural. It looks lovely in person. It does not look like you have like a total cake face on. It looks like a natural, beautiful, perfected skin. But the wear is terrible. If you're going to be out all day, you might want to prepare for having to do a major remove and retouch on this. Unless you have really dry skin. If you have really dry skin, it might wear better on you. I don't know. So considering that it's Revlon, I was a little surprised at how poor the wear is. So that's the thought on this one. The NYX, Stay Matte But Not Flat, felt a little flat for me. Not bad. It definitely wears better than the Revlon, but I'm not so fond of the finish. And I don't think that, considering that it's such a medium foundation, I find it a little, maybe the tiniest bit cakey in some ways if you try to do any build. So not my favorite, not the worst I've ever tried, but definitely not my favorite. I like the Hard Candy Camouflage. It looks really nice. It covers very well, but I find it a little cakey. It has great finish if you just do one light coat. But if you try to do build-up coverage to cover something up like I did here, you'll notice it starts looking rather cakey. The Milani Conceal and Perfect 2-in-1 I like the best out of all of these for full coverage for my job to keep as my backup. Or let's say I'm going to go out and I can't airbrush for some reason. I ran out, whatever, like it is right now. My compressor isn't working. And I'm going to be out for hours. I would rather wear this. It still doesn't have, I mean, I would trust it for a good maybe 8 or 9 hours with, you know, being careful about touching up and stuff as I went and making sure that I didn't let it oxidize too much. Make sure I did a lot of blotting and a lot of powdering as I went through. But although this finish is nicer on initial, this one, even after you build up, it doesn't look nearly as cakey as this one. So I think that for work, if you need a full coverage, buildable foundation, and you want to use minimal concealer, or you're lazy, or you just want something that you don't have to worry about concealer, the Milani 2-in-1 Conceal and Perfect for sure. If you're looking for something for light, perfected skin and you don't have a lot to cover up, then I would say the Revlon Photo Ready Airbrush Effect. Do not expect this to last very long. It will oxidize horribly. So if I were going to go out for 5 or 6 hours, this is perfectly fine. Any longer, I would definitely go for something a little more long wearing. These, the hard candy and the NYX, I could live without. They're not really one way or another. I don't hate them. I don't love them. So these are all fairly cheap. This one is actually the most expensive out of all of them. I don't remember exactly. I want to say that this was 13, 12, 13. And I want to say that this was like 8 or 9. Something like that. So there you go. This is what it looks like. This is what my thoughts on drugstore foundations for someone who has a few challenging spots on their skin. Okay, so that's my gloomy Saturday makeup, brighten up my day sort of video for you guys. I hope that it helps you. I hope that you try some of these. Let me know if you try some of them and what your thoughts are about them. Okay, remember you can follow me on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, on WordPress for my blog, which I do a lot more videos than blogging these days, but we'll see. Now that I've gotten back up on the videos, maybe I can get back up on the blog too. All right, thank you so much. I love that you guys are watching, and don't forget to subscribe. I would love some more subscribers, please. All right, thank you. Much love.